Would a no deal have been better than this deal?
Well, I think what we're seeing here is that Europe gradually integrates, and this progress happens from crisis to crisis. So I do look at the agreement as a powerful symbol of the intentions of the European leaders to continue to come together and to strengthen Europe and its underlying institutions. I think the specifics of the deal are constructive and helpful. I think at this stage, for one of the national parliaments to reject it would be really, really hard. I think both from a diplomatic standpoint, given everything that this means for Europe, and certainly from a market standpoint, where I think the markets see this as an important incremental but further step toward fiscal integration.
I guess I just wonder, like, how much more bang for their buck can they get out of this? And, like, how much tighter can spreads go? Like, how much lower can yields on short-term BTPs go based on something like this?
So I think, Alex, that a lot of this was already priced in. It's a good day, and when the news arrives, people are always happy. But I was kind of looking at it, if they had failed to reach an agreement, there would have been a reversal. But I think it is constructive. But it's also another piece, as I've said, of this puzzle toward integration. And a big existing piece that's supporting spreads is the ECB and the ECB's actions. So I'm not expecting necessarily a marked further tightening of European spreads, but if they had failed, it would have been backing up noticeably.
What does it mean for European, bonds? I don't know whether you fight central banks here in Europe, or you just assume that the ECB will do whatever it takes for no fragmentation, and so there's value in periphery bonds.
I do believe that there is value in the periphery. I think that the combination of what the ECB is doing and other European apparatus that's in place is going to make sure fundamentally that these European peripherals pay their debts. And in this environment of low spreads, low base rates, negative rates through much of Europe, the many investors are going to continue to be attracted to those peripherals. And this just expands the safety net and makes it even more compelling and convincing than it was previously.
I wonder how, though, we have to look at then the differentiation in recovery, for example, because the money is going to be doled out by how much you need it and how much you've been hit by the pandemic, which obviously helps the peripherals. So do we see like a two-speed recovery based on something like this, or do you feel like this kind of helps level everything?
So I think a critical point here is that the money that and resources that are being allocated are going to come slowly over time. And so that the power of this through this crisis period is not so much that the Italys or Portugals of the world are going to have more resources in the near term. If they face stress, I think that is still largely an ECB response. But the fact that Europe is showing a common commitment to integration and taking a small further step toward fiscal integration. And I think that that is significant for these peripherals. So I look at it much more as the leveler here, rather than how much various countries will get at various times. It's more the symbol.
Nathan, what does this mean for euro? I don't know whether it translates into euro, or actually, come 10 days, no one will have cared about the summit. It lasted 5 days. It wasn't a disaster, and the markets will move on.
So I think this is another part of the market effect that has been priced in over the last 6 weeks or so. I think that the euro has strengthened in part due to the very powerful policy response from the ECB, but also the anticipation of this recovery fund. But on the margin, my expectation is that this agreement will reinforce the euro bulls. And that, along with the monetary stimulus that's building confidence, and as I said earlier, the relatively favorable position of the European economies as they come out of lockdowns, I think that that puts Europe in a relatively strong position and is likely to be distinctly euro positive